In the quiet, tree-lined community of Maple Glen, new homeowner Daniel Cross thought he had found a safe haven. Every lawn was immaculate, driveways spotless, and each house seemed like a portrait of suburban perfection. The Homeowners Association, the HOA, had promised community harmony and preservation of neighborhood standards. For Daniel, who had spent years in noisy apartment complexes, Maple Glen felt like a dream realized. He greeted neighbors warmly, trimmed his hedges, and paid every HOA due without question. But the more time passed, the more Daniel began to notice small inconsistencies. Cars parked overnight in driveways, something clearly against the HOA bylaws, went unpunished. Board members held late-night parties while other residents received warning letters for noise violations. One evening, while chatting with his neighbor Jim, Daniel heard something that made him pause. Jim mentioned that Clark Redding, the HOA vice president, had built an extended patio that technically encroached on common area property, but no one dared to question it. Daniel brushed it off at first. After all, why stir trouble in a community he had just joined? He believed that as long as he followed the rules, there'd be no issues. But there was something strange about the way the HOA board operated. Every time he attended a meeting, discussions about spending or policies were vague. President Marjorie Firth, a well-dressed woman in her 50s, spoke like a politician, always smiling, always deflecting. Yet behind those polished smiles, something felt tightly controlled. Daniel would later realize that what he mistook for efficiency was actually dominance. For now, though, he stayed quiet, unaware that his silence was protecting a system that thrived on it. Months later, Daniel received his first HOA violation notice, a $75 fine for leaving his trash bin visible for more than 6 hours after collection. It irritated him, but he paid it promptly. That same evening, walking past Clark's home, Daniel noticed 3 trash bins sitting in plain view for 2 days straight. Yet Clark faced no fines, no letters, no warnings. It was a small thing, but a spark that lit a slow fire of awareness soon. Subtle whispers spread across Maple Glen. Some homeowners muttered that Marjorie had arranged landscaping for her property using HOA funds. Others claimed that her son's construction company had won multiple HOA contracts without proper bidding. Daniel didn't want to believe rumors, but evidence began to pile up. He noticed the same workers who repaired the community fence also planting new flowers in front of Marjorie's home. Coincidence? Maybe, but it didn't sit right. Curiosity turned into concern when Daniel saw the HOA's annual budget summary. The numbers didn't add up. Maintenance costs were soaring, yet visible improvements were minimal. He quietly started keeping track. Photographs, dates, and payment slips, all carefully stored in a hidden folder on his computer. Not to expose anyone, but to protect himself. He'd seen how quickly the HOA turned on residents over minor disputes. Late one night, he sat at his desk, scrolling through state laws about homeowners associations. The power HOAs held was staggering. They could impose fines, file liens, and even foreclose on properties for unpaid fees. And all that authority rested in the hands of a few unpaid volunteers. The idea chilled him. He realized Maple Glen's perfection wasn't natural, it was enforced. And those who enforced it didn't play by the same rules. During the next community meeting, Daniel finally spoke up. The HOA Zoom call had about 20 residents, most muted, their cameras off. When Marjorie opened the floor for questions, Daniel asked calmly, "Can we review the association's spending in detail? Especially landscaping and contractor payments?" Marjorie's smile faltered for a moment. "All financials are properly managed, Mr. Cross," she said, her tone clipped. "We publish summaries annually as required." Clark quickly moved to table the discussion. The meeting ended soon after. Within a week, Daniel's mailbox began filling up with more letters. Lawn height inconsistency, mailbox in disrepair, unapproved garden decorations. Each came with a fine, escalating in amount. He measured his grass exactly 2.5 inches, well within the rules. He checked his mailbox clean and sturdy. Something was wrong. When he mentioned it to neighbors, most stayed silent. A few whispered warnings. Don't challenge them. They'll make your life miserable. That's when Daniel realized the HOA didn't just enforce order, it enforced obedience. Still, he refused to back down. He submitted a formal request to inspect the HOA's records, a right protected under state law. The response was chilling. Due to concerns about harassment and board member safety, your request is denied. From that day, Daniel was marked as an outsider. His silence had once protected him. Now his voice had made him a target. The harassment grew systematic. Daniel received 3 fines in 1 week for failure to edge lawn borders. Someone snapped photos of his property at odd hours. A warning letter accused him of unauthorized exterior lighting. Though he hadn't changed a bulb dot at night, Daniel heard footsteps near his porch. He installed a small camera, and the footage showed Clark walking across his lawn with a flashlight. When confronted, Clark claimed he was inspecting a community complaint. The next day, Daniel received a violation for obstructing HOA duties. It became clear this was retaliation. His name was blacklisted in board discussions. His comments were muted in virtual meetings. Neighbors he'd once chatted with now avoided eye contact. He was being isolated, erased from the community's social fabric. But Daniel wasn't the type to break. Instead, he documented everything: screenshots, recordings, timestamps, photos. Each piece of evidence told a story of abuse and intimidation. When he reviewed the footage one night, he whispered to himself, "They think fear will silence me." The more he dug, the darker it got. He discovered that HOA funds were paying for maintenance on properties owned by board relatives. Invoices had identical handwriting. Records were missing pages. The board wasn't just unfair, they were corrupt. Daniel decided the truth had to come out, no matter the cost. Daniel compiled everything: photos, documents, correspondence, into a thick binder labeled evidence. He mailed copies to the county ethics office and the state housing authority. When the HOA learned of it, panic erupted. Marjorie called an emergency board meeting and accused Daniel of defamation and harassment. Clark demanded legal action. Within days, Daniel's community privileges were suspended: no pool, no voting, no access to HOA facilities. Flyers appeared on mailboxes claiming Daniel was endangering neighborhood peace. His reputation shattered overnight. One night, he found deep tire marks cutting across his lawn. On his porch lay a note: drop it or regret it. He reported it to the police. But without proof, nothing could be done. That night, Daniel realized the HOA had become something far more sinister. Small kingdom where truth was punished and silence rewarded. He decided to take one final step. Go public. Daniel uploaded everything online. A video titled, "Inside My HOA, The Truth They Tried to Hide." In calm, measured narration, he laid out the facts: every fine, every double standard, every violation. The video exploded overnight. Comments flooded in from other homeowners facing the same nightmare. Local news picked up the story. Soon after, county investigators arrived at Maple Glen. The HOA's image cracked under the weight of exposure. Reporters uncovered how Clark had used HOA vendors for his personal property. Marjorie was caught approving payments to her relatives' businesses. Residents who once ignored Daniel now demanded answers. Clark resigned under personal stress. Marjorie tried to hold the community together, but the damage was done. Investigators seized HOA records, revealing years of misuse. Still, retaliation continued. Quietly: anonymous emails, more fines, and cold stares. But Daniel no longer cared. He had already won in the court of public opinion. Months later, the county completed its audit. Tens of thousands of dollars misused, rules manipulated, and records falsified. Marjorie quietly moved out of Maple Glen before the next election. A new board formed, pledging transparency and fairness. The first act they passed was the right to access records policy, ensuring no homeowner could be silenced again. Daniel's life, however, was never the same. He'd lost peace, friends, and trust. But he'd gained something greater truth. One evening, he walked across his repaired lawn, the sunset casting long shadows. In his final documentary clip, he spoke softly. Communities don't fall apart because of rules. They fall apart when rules protect the powerful instead of the people. His story spread online as a cautionary tale, reshared by homeowners across the country. And while the wounds in Maple Glen were slow to heal, a new sense of awareness replaced the old fear. Daniel never set out to be a whistleblower. He was just a man who wanted fairness. But in standing up to the HOA's corruption, he became a symbol proof that silence feeds injustice, and truth, though costly, always finds its voice.